Hey guys, it's Heather here. Today, of course, I'm with my Mama Vacay, my mother,
everybody.
back with another great movie to talk about today. I am so excited. It is actually Mama Vacay's movie week. And what movie did we choose?
Footloose, 1984, because that's the only true
yes,
Footloose.
the OG, of course,
The
of
OG.
course. Yes, of course. And yeah, because I think they made one, back in like 2008 or something like that. But you know, OGs are always the best.
Yes.
But it works out perfect because it's also the 40th anniversary of Footloose.
Yes.
So perfect timing. It just passed this past March. So 40 years. So wow, very cool, very cool. I'm very excited. Go ahead and jump into this movie talk. So before we go ahead and start, go ahead. If you're new, hit that subscribe button down below and give the video a like. Another thing as well, Mama Vacay likes to do this because she is the mother.
Yes, might be not as friendly. I would say probably a PG rating tonight, right?
I think it might be a PG.
Was PG, and I think it was PG.
I don't think there was anything dirty or naughty in this movie. So, but always be aware, subjects might go there. And
yes.
Yeah. So, alrighty then, go ahead and kick it off.
Okay, hey everybody. Okay, so Footloose, just some background in our family. I've been trying to get Heather to watch this movie back when she was a teenager. It's like, want to watch Footloose? No. And I kind of had to make her do it this time.
Well, I thought it was a boring musical. I don't know why I thought Footloose was a musical. Because he always went on and was like, oh, the music was so good.
The music was so good.
But I thought it was going to be like a boring musical type of movie. And I mean, I like musicals, but for some reason I was thinking, oh, like a musical about like kids dancing in a town. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was not a musical. It just had really great 80s music.
It had really great. The 80s music takes me back. I was 17 when this came out. I would graduated high school. It's all the feels. That music can just take me right back. And even watching this movie, I remember watching this at a party the next year. They rented the VHS. It was a very small party, and we all watched it. And I remember that night, and I remember this movie. So it was just very iconic for me. So
honestly, it had some of the best music, I will have to say. As being a Gen Zer and things like that, I love 80s music, and it had some pretty great songs.
Almost Paradise, Holding Out for a Hero.
Yeah. Amazing.
The title song, Footloose, which was how we kicked it off.
Yes.
With the feet, that's very iconic. I thought it was an adorable opening credit scene. Again, we don't get those anymore.
Really don't. So, it's like just cut right to the chase.
They cut right to the movie and they show the credits at the end. So I always thought, like, rewatching it, I haven't watched it in a long time, but rewatching it, I always thought it was a Midwest kind of movie, but it actually took place in Utah. And it actually was, filmed in Utah. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
And so the scene begins that it's a church scene. It opens up. They tell a lot in the opening scene. I love when movies do that. John Lithgow, who you never really heard of.
Never heard the guy.
Very classic actor, plays the pastor. He's been stage, theater, everything. So it starts off where he's preaching at the church, and you kind of get the feel immediately. A lot of people are bored. A lot of people that you have to go to church in that town. It's kind of a social thing to have to go to church.
Yeah.
And then we kind of see Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, it's, small town in middle of nowhere, Utah. Probably a big thing was like the church. Probably one church in like the whole town.
Right.
Small. 80s. I feel like that was a big thing for people to do. In the
There
80s
really
on
wasn't
Sunday.
religious freedom. Socially, you probably had to go to church on Sunday, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And you kind of see a lot of the kids were bored. Someone was painting their nails, and you see the buzz around Kevin Bacon.
Sleeping, yeah.
Kevin Bacon moved there. Ren McCormick, he had to move there from another place. His father left or whatever, but you can kind of see the girls kind of eyeing him.
Yeah, you find out that later on that his father,
You do.
it's kind of like, did his father die? What happened?
Yes.
But they can insinuate his father did leave. And I
His
always
father
think with
did
Ren,
leave.
like Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
That was like the first thing
that's so
Ren.
right.
I was just cracking up.
I don't know, because it was R-E-N. It wasn't like W. I know a lot
Oh
of
my gosh,
kids
so
are
many
named
girls now. That's like a
W-R-E-N.
top name. A lot of little girls are named like Ren,
Right.
W-R-E-N, or Renly. So I thought
Right.
that was kind of funny.
That was, yes, it was
His
very
name was
funny.
Ren.
His name was Ren. And believe it or not, that was the first time ever, because this was 6 years before The Little Mermaid, it was the first time ever I heard the name Ariel.
Wow.
And I remember listening, and immediately I'm thinking Ariel, I'm thinking gymnastics, side aerial, front aerial. And it's so funny. So they had kind of trendy names for 1984.
Yeah.
So it kind of ends, the church ends, and immediately the stage is set. You see the pastor meeting the family, and he calls Ariel over. And you immediately know, like, it just screams out to you what the plot is going to be, that they're going to fall in love, that he's kind of the bad boy from another town, and she's with the good boy who's really even a worse boy, who's the true bad boy.
Yeah.
You kind of see that immediately. And the funny thing is that stands out to me is when I saw Ariel, who was played by Laurie Singer, I remember being like a frumpy 17-year-old, you know, I was overweight and frumpy. And I remember looking at her and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. I wish I could look like her. And it's funny, she is a very pretty girl, but in the movie, but she was such a victim of 80s fashion.
Oh, yeah.
The hair, the curls.
I thought she was very basic. Like, I don't think she was ugly, but just very basic. And I know maybe that was more of the 80s style.
It was just the hair and the clothes and everything like that. So it was kind of... But I just remember, I was just like, oh gosh, she's so beautiful.
And was everyone else raving about her? Was everybody was like,
oh, I think so. I think
she's
it was
so hot,
kind of a big thing.
or
I think it was, but it was her hair. I think it was. It reminded me of Nancy from Stranger Things, and I know they make her hair 80s too.
Because again, that's
so
a period
I think
piece,
just the clothes and the hair, she was just very 80s. Like, and I think because I was in the 80s, you know, I related to that at the time.
Yeah.
But you kind of see immediately, you know, she's like, I'm gonna go out with my friends. I'll be home for supper. And she gets in the car with the girls, and they're immediately talking sex in the car, like really dirty, detailed sex with their boyfriends.
See, this is where we're getting the non-PG.
Yes, exactly. I knew it was somewhere, but they're immediately talking dirty, the girls, to each other and everything.
Yeah, and then the car scene, how they're like drag racing down the street.
They're drag racing,
and then she's there on top of the car, ready to jump in, and it's like, girl, what are you doing?
First of all, I wonder if that would even be possible. Like, you would have to have the cars driving at the same exact speed.
The same exact speed. She would have to have like a lot of like leg strength.
She would, and she had really thin, skinny legs. I remember. Yeah. Maybe I was jealous of her legs because I was fat.
Skinny legs.
But she was up there, and then they almost get hit by the truck, and the truck runs off the road, and then and it's like, oh gosh. So we're immediately, I just don't think it would be able to do that physically. So we go back, before we pick up with her, we go back and we see Ren's already starting trouble because he's talking about a book being a classic.
Yeah.
And the town wants to burn it, but he has an opinion that's different. So they're already setting the stage of that Ren's being painted out to be the bad boy. Yeah. Even though he's not.
But he's not. It's just because, you know, he's normal when they're very, like, super legalistic and strict. And so he's really in for poor Ren.
Yes, he is. Poor Ren. So we pick up then later. We pick up and there's they go to the where they were going, where she was going out with her friends, and she's like, I'll be home in time for supper. And we immediately notice.
Yeah, oh my gosh, huge nitpick. It's dark. You know, you're thinking right after church. Church was probably, that's the thing in like the 80s too. Church was probably like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., like a traditional earlier time. Because now, like, you have church services all over the place, all times of day. But it was the 80s.
Back then it was Sunday morning.
And it looked like middle of the afternoon, maybe 2, 3 o'clock. And then all of a sudden, 5 o'clock, and they were going right to that restaurant.
They were going right to that restaurant, and it was dark. And they get out of the car, and they're yelling at her. And this was actually, I didn't mention Sarah Jessica Parker. This is one of her earlier ones.
It's funny. I don't think in this movie you look so much alike, but everyone always makes comments that I look like the Sarah Sanderson.
When you had the blonde, when she had the blonde
Everyone's like, oh my
hair.
gosh, you look like Sarah Sanderson. But I did think in this movie we were too 2020. So.
No, because she had the darker hair and all. And I think that they really tried to make her look. We talk about this with Grease.
Yeah, we were talking about
They made her look a little bit more drab, maybe to make the star look better. But I really feel like just Sarah Jessica Parker, Kevin Bacon, Laurie Singer, they were in their 20s, like their late 20s, but I think it kind of worked as high schoolers.
They passed. It wasn't like the Grease cast that looked like they were like parents.
But this was
like
10 years later than Grease, and a lot of them were the same age, and they looked younger.
But they just looked believable.
They did.
It looked so much more believable.
It did.
And it was a good cast. I will have to say it was a great cast.
It was a great cast. So so they're there, and then she puts on the music, and she's like dancing and bumping and grinding, and this is where her dad shows up, and he's like, "Oh, we didn't know that. That if you had money. Your mom didn't know if you had money." And this immediately...
Yeah, but first of all, it's just the thing that's funny. Everyone just stops dancing.
Everyone just stops dancing. Yes, because the preacher's there.
And everyone just stops.
Everyone stops. It was like when I was a kid and the principal walked into the cafeteria and you just stopped. You know?
Yeah.
So it was something where... And this is where I have to say that I don't think as a parent... the Reverend Shaw, his name was Shaw.
Oh, Shaw.
But that was his first name. That was what his wife called him. But I don't think he was that bad as a father, because I feel, he didn't drag her out of there. He didn't embarrass her. He didn't even bring it up till 3 days later.
No, he didn't say like, okay, you're here, caught you dancing, caught you
you're
singing.
Grounded,
you're grounded. You're coming home with me right now. You're grounded. No, he was just like, we forgot to give you money and just kind of left.
Right. And they're like, even like when she's mentioned, my daddy doesn't like me in this boots, but he still let her wear them. So I don't think he was a bad father. I feel there was obviously trauma, which we'll get into, for the family.
Honestly, everyone's talking about he's so strict. Mm-hmm. He definitely wasn't as strict with his daughters. More not relaxed dad. I don't think he approved to her, but he wasn't like a mean father.
He wasn't a mean father. No, not at all. So
he was better. Yeah.
He was better. Yeah. So then they go into school the next day. You have more sex talk with Ren and Willard. We meet Willard, who I love Willard. I thought he really didn't do a whole lot more, I don't think.
Oh, who was the actor?
Oh, gosh. Chris Penn, I think his name is.
Why does his name sound familiar?
We'll
have to look that up after this.
Yeah, we'll have to. But they were kind of, and all they talk about is sex, and then we find out why, because they can't dance. Dancing is illegal. They find out.
You know what you do when you're bored? You talk about sex.
You talk about sex.
If that's the only thing
you're not going to let us dance. We're going to talk about sex.
You know what? They'd be better off. They'd be totally better off just letting the kids dance.
Letting the kids dance, and then because they were all pretty dirty, So so it's kind of, so they kind of did the whole thing with the school. And then we see that Ren has like an after school job and all that.
He had a hard time getting because, again, he was like the outsider. And
he was the outsider.
He's so bad. Never mind.
Right. So then he... Ariel's boyfriend is like the total douchebag in this.
You find out he's
the total douche.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess he gets challenged to a fight with her boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, because she ran over and she's like,
she goes to his work. You have to fight him. So it's kind of like, so he's kind of
it was a tractor. It was a tractor race.
Yes, they went and they did a tractor race. They played Holding Out for a Hero, which is like, I love that.
Oh my gosh, that scene was so funny that they all just had these tractors lying around. Never mind.
Yeah, tractors are expensive.
For their parents' job, just lying around just to race. And to waste one. Like,
to waste one of the tractors, and they do a big like chicken fight, and they they have that whole thing, where they have the chicken fight, and then before that though, you see Ariel and she's shacking up in the woods with this guy Chuck, and she's like, you wouldn't guess your father was the fire chief, and he's like, you wouldn't guess your father's the minister. And so you see that she's going in the woods to shack up with this guy. So she's got a little bit of a rebellious streak in her.
She definitely has a little bit of
but I don't think it's all directed from her father, even though they kind of.
Well, I think they live in a town where there's nothing else to do. That's the whole thing. When there's nothing else to do, you're gonna shack up with your boyfriend.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
There's nothing else for these kids to do. Maybe if they danced, they wouldn't have sex.
They wouldn't have sex, exactly.
So
they have the chicken fight with the tractors, and of course, Ren wins, and he knocks the tractor off the road because tractors don't cost thousands of dollars.
Of course, they don't cost thousands of dollars. Never mind. What's your paw gonna do now?
What's your paw gonna do now? He's got to spend all the time getting his tractor out of a ditch.
Right.
So then you kind of see where Ren kind of, I guess, maybe his uncle finds out, and he kind of bursts through the door, and he's all mad, and he goes, and suddenly he's smoking and he's drinking beer, which we hadn't seen before.
We haven't seen before. No, all of a sudden he's smoking beer.
And he shows up at a warehouse, and he starts. That was the one of the weirdest scenes.
This part cracked me up.
It was so funny.
He just starts dancing.
He starts dancing. He does
gymnastics.
He does. The Olympics are on. And he's doing a dismount off a high bar.
Oh yeah, because that's the thing. They wouldn't let him be on the gymnastics team.
Yes, he got kicked off the gymnastics team. Right.
And this guy's doing like gymnastics.
He's doing an Olympic-style dismount off a high bar.
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon. And he did say that he had 2 gymnastics doubles, 2 dance doubles.
Oh yeah, because that definitely isn't Kevin Bacon doing all that.
Right. No, definitely wasn't.
But
so then,
funny.
of course,
just randomly going around.
Yes, he's going around.
You just picture like your brother or your cousin or your friend just going dancing, doing flips.
Right.
Just let's just have that vision for a moment and just enjoy it. Make yourself
enjoy
laugh.
it. It's very, very funny.
I had a laugh picturing some men in my life doing that, and I was just like,
it's so funny. It's so it was a very awkward scene where he kind of just gets his frustrations out, I guess. And of course, Ariel shows up.
Ariel, of course.
And of course, she has to do her "I'm gonna almost die again," and she goes in front of the train tracks, and he has to save her at the last minute, and all that stuff. So you can kind of see things are kindling between him and Ariel, so then it turns out that he decides to take everybody across the state line to show them what they're missing.
Yeah, and where did they go? Montana?
There's 5 states that border Utah.
Look this up,
So we don't know which state it was. We don't know exactly where in Utah the town was, but they go over the state line.
Yeah,
so he
Montana,
can show
Colorado.
them what it's like to dance, because I guess maybe it was a state band, the dancing. I thought it was a town band.
I think it was more of but I guess if the town is very close to a state line.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's another thing too, like Utah is more like, probably maybe small towns of Utah are more like religious, and other towns really didn't have like clubs or bars.
Right.
So there's probably like the next town.
The next town. So wherever it was, Colorado, Idaho, wherever, probably not Idaho.
I would say Colorado.
Arizona,
That would be my guess.
Wherever.
Colorado.
They go to the next town. Now, I did look this up because I was a little bit confused about like the drinking and how they would have gotten into a club.
Yeah.
But the drinking age wasn't officially nationwide changed until July of 1984.
And
so
this
when
came
they
out,
filmed
and this came out March. Actually, came out March 1984. So they would have still been good to go.
Right, they would have still been go to 18-year-olds to a club, but they ended up.
So Kevin Bacon's character, Ren, would have still been. He would have been legal for him to drink when he was drinking.
It probably would have been if he was 18.
Yeah, he would have been legal, because I thought maybe I was being bad.
They were seniors. They did specify that they were
seniors.
Yeah, they were seniors. So he might have been 18. So suddenly, Sarah Jessica Parker, her character is Rusty. Suddenly, she and Willard are dating.
I know, because that was a little bit weird in the beginning, because they were just all like friends, and then all of a sudden
they're dating, and they show up as like a couple, and he gets like really jealous because this man is totally inappropriate.
That looks like he could be a father.
Yeah, he just starts dating with a high school girl, and he gets like all jealous and all that. So they're there dancing, and it's like I said, like the man's coming on to like the young Sarah Jessica Parker, which was weird. But suddenly, I guess they're boyfriend and girlfriend at this time.
Yeah.
So, so he decides, and he punches Willard in the face and all that. You know. But they got to see what they missed. But then the next day, when Ariel comes home and
but don't forget, that's when we find out on the bridge on the right back. That's when we don't know. Why is dancing illegal? But then that's a bit of a twist, because Ariel's brother died in a car accident from like drinking and dancing, and that's where they thought it was bad, and that's when they banned it from the town. Right. And that was 5 years prior.
Right, and that's when we kind of see maybe where all of Ariel's rebellion is coming from, because she's in a family. She's grieving, the family's grieving. Because it wasn't her father being too strict, because I'll stand by that, because he wasn't too strict with her.
Yeah.
And even questioning her about where she's going, and she's like, "Daddy, you don't have a right." Yes, you do have a right as a parent.
Yeah, you do. Of
course.
But he didn't be like, "Okay, you're grounded." No, he just like, "Okay."
No, she just would throw her
fits,
he
just let her walk right over
Right, exactly. But the family was probably very messed up from like losing her brother.
I think that's really messed up. Like when you lose like your child, your brother, it's gonna like really mess up with your brain a
and
bit.
you're
going
to take it out in
a lot
really
of
weird
trauma.
ways. So
Oh yeah, or you can even say with the mother, like maybe during that time, because she would have been like 12. That's the start of like adolescence, puberty. Her mother might have been too busy grieving the loss of her brother to be like really making sure she's on the right path.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So they have the whole thing where he starts now wanting to push to do a dance and he wants to go he wants to fight City Hall. And then it kind of leads to Willard learning how to dance, and it's the "Let's Hear It for the Boys" sequence. I have to say, I love that. That was one of my favorite scenes.
That's such a good song
in any movie. I thought it was a great use of the two little girls who played Ren's cousins because they were so funny.
They were cute. They
to
were
put
cute
them
kids.
into
I
it,
really
with dancing
two.
with Willard for him learning. We were laughing though at the one point because he was dancing and he was making the floor shake, and it showed his parents, and they looked like they were 90. So remember,
it was like, see them all dancing. It's like, are you sure those aren't his grandparents?
Those aren't his grandparents down there.
No.
So we go into that whole scene, and then we have Bad Chuck, and he comes around and he gets in a fight with Ariel, and he's like, "Oh, you'll wrap those skinny little legs around anyone." Punches her in the face, and this is what's weird to me that. Ren's helping her clean up, and her face went from being totally bruised to not bruised to totally bruised to not bruised.
Yeah.
But, why wasn't there more concern?
There was never. I would have been, if I were Ren, or if I would think, a good boyfriend would be like, I'm going to go
kill him. And he would have showed up and punched him.
But he wasn't even, but he was just like, oh, okay.
He
beat you
like,
up.
And even her father, I know she was trying to hide it from her parents, but.
Right.
You would think there would be concern about a teenage boy beating on a teenage girl. That would have been, because he punched her hard. So
she bruised, she blood, and
she did. She did. So the next day they have the town hall meeting, and I love this because Ariel shows up with the Bible, and she's
that was a good way,
using
good
the Bible,
weapon,
the Bible, a good weapon. I really love when they can use the Bible against people who are being too legalistic, as it was in this case. And Kevin Bacon had said he was really nervous, filming that scene.
Oh yeah,
and that a couple of parts, when he's and King David did, and what did King David it was kind of an ad lib because he was very nervous about filming those scenes, which I think is funny.
So funny.
And Ariel, of course, has her big black eye for the town meeting again.
Of course she does, of course.
So then the next day you have this whole thing with the book burning, and again you see Reverend Shaw's attitude, and he was kind of don't burn the books.
Yeah,
and
don't burn
he wasn't bad. He really wasn't the catalyst. I think the town maybe took things a little bit more so to another level than he was. So they kind of approved that if they can get a place in another town, they can have their dance there. So suddenly they're all riding on motorcycles.
Yeah, where the heck did they get these motorcycles from? Why did they have the motorcycle instead of the tractors with their motorcycles?
Yeah, exactly. They could have played chicken with
motorcycles. And the money? Where did they get the money to get motorcycles?
Everybody in town owns a motorcycle, and they go to this place to fix it up, and usually if you're going to decorate, you bring a van to carry stuff in, but they're all on motorcycles.
I know. Where are you going to carry the balloons, the decorations?
Yes, exactly. So it was all but they're all celebrating. They're all going to have a senior prom, and then the senior, and then it shows it's a really sweet moment with him and Ariel's father, and saying, if you can explain why my father left, maybe we could explain why your son had to die. It was very sweet, I thought. And then, Ariel did the whole thing, I don't believe in everything you do, but I do believe in you. It was a sweet, tender moment between.
That was really sweet.
It was very sweet.
Really sweet.
And he went and asked permission to bring Ariel to the
I thought
to
that
the
was
prom.
very proper of him.
So it was very proper of him. So then it's becoming the prom day, and we see Ariel getting all ready. And
I was laughing at this part so hard. It looked like Hermione Granger's dress, the way
Totally.
it was. I was like, oh my gosh.
It was Hermione's dress.
They totally copied off of the Footloose dress.
Yes, exactly.
Hermione's dress, 1984.
Yes.
20 years earlier.
20 years
I was
earlier,
just cracking
she's wearing
up. I'm like,
Hermione's
that's
dress.
That's Hermione's dress.
That was so funny.
So funny.
That was really
on
funny.
The floor laughing so hard.
He picks her up though. He's opening the car. It was a really sweet moment between the two of them. And we had a moment with the mom and dad, and they're kind of looking over. And, you know, they weren't bad people. Like, I think the town picked up on his energy and made it 1,000 times worse than he did.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a really sweet moment with the parents. So then we have Bad Boy Chuck show up again.
Oh, yeah, because that's another thing we were laughing, because, they get to the dance and stuff, and the parents are, like, spying and eavesdropping.
Yes.
And then Bad Boy Chuck goes up, and they're fighting. I'm like, wouldn't the parents have seen that?
Yes.
I would have been like, oh, no, there's a fight breaking out, and run over it. But, like, when they didn't see it.
Right. So all of a sudden, it's like they come out, and it's just Willard and Ren, and all of a sudden, Ren, in addition to these amazing gymnastics and dancing skills, he has Cobra Kai skills. Like, it's like Karate Kid. He's like, you know, kicking them up. And so it was like pretty amazing. So
I mean, a little unrealistic.
Very unrealistic.
Come on.
Because
I mean, the gymnastics skills were a little bit unrealistic, but karate.
And they could have easily gotten some people to come out and help them send the bad guys away.
Yeah, or even the parents, or they couldn't have gotten like a chaperone. Like,
they would have had to have a chaperone.
Like, just because they were
you
all
don't
like,
do proms
but even for them being all just very legalistic and like uptight,
Right.
like. Wouldn't you want to send an adult or two just to make sure
there
nobody's
would've been.
shacking up?
Yes.
Because you're gonna not tell me that people weren't shacking up somewhere.
They didn't have a car to shack up in because
yeah,
everyone drove motorcycles. Where were they going to shack up?
I guess in the woods right there. I don't know.
Woods,
somewhere.
I don't know.
But yeah, you're right.
But it was kind of, because senior proms always have chaperones. They always have teachers
just to make sure everything's going according to plan.
Exactly. So
and then the dance skills.
Everybody at the end.
Everyone was good dancers. They're all dancing, but never mind. It was a band for 5 years. What, they learned these moves when they were like 10?
I know. It was like the town didn't have any dancing, but all of a sudden the kids are come out doing these really, wonderful dance moves and all, and they're really, but all right, it was corny, the dance part, but it was very sweet. I did love the scene. They were all young people celebrating and, kick off your Sunday shoes. I really loved it. I really loved watching it. I'm really glad that you finally had to watch it.
I know.
Because you fought me on it for so long.
because I thought it was going to be this boring musical, this cheesy musical, but then I was like, oh, it's not it ended. I'm waiting for like the songs and no, but that's what you meant by music. It was just the background music.
It was just the background music.
So yeah, if you ever want to watch Footloose, it's not a musical.
It's not a musical.
Not a musical.
But it has great 80s music, some of the best. So
so definitely worth. I think it was definitely worth the watch. Again, a couple little unrealistic things.
But I think it had a lot of everything, like psychologically. You had the family that was grieving, the loss of their child. You had Ren, who was grieving the loss of his father. I think you had a lot of things going on, a lot of, toxic situations that they all kind of worked out over the course of the movie. And I really loved it.
Yeah, it was a pretty good movie, a pretty good 80s movie.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you got to see it.
Yeah, me too. So, well, I guess that's the end of our talk.
Yes.
Really great discussion. I would love if you can comment below. Have you ever seen Footloose? What was your favorite part? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Yeah, let's get a conversation going because I'd love to hear more opinions and things like that. And and
I have to say too, Kevin Bacon kind of went on and played a string of bad guys in a lot of
movies. He's a lot of bad guys
in a lot of movies. So it was kind of nice seeing him as a good guy, as the hero, and as a good guy. So
But and also make sure if you're new, subscribe, give the video a like, share it with friends, family.
Spooky season's coming
up. Yes, because we're gonna be doing a lot with spooky season again. We're kind of hyping it up. We have a lot of really great ideas that I cannot wait to share with you guys. In the next week's My Movie Week, and I already have an idea.
Yeah, she does.
I think it's gonna be a Disney movie, so be sure to stay tuned for it. But So I hope you guys enjoyed me and my mom just talking nonstop about this film. See you on the next chapter.
Bye.